Hi and welcome to School Shorts with me, Melissa Chan Green, journalist and mum of two with a passion for education. And in this episode we are speaking with Malindi Maclean from Bound. While we often think about outdoor activity and outdoor education as something that's kind of separate from academic learning, there is fascinating research that shows that outdoor education, that outdoor play, has really direct benefits on what we're actually trying to achieve in the classroom. And we'll be speaking about some of that today. Malindi, thank you so much for being with us on School Shorts.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you. I talked about the value of outdoor education, and I think everybody understands that there is some value, but what kind of value? How valuable is it? And do you think that that's being recognised in schools?
So there is a lot of evidence that links nature and connection to nature and nature play with all sorts of benefits. But the two that I would talk about when it comes to kids in schools or young people in schools is the benefit to the person and the well-being benefits that we know about, but also the impact that it can have on learning. And that can be in lots of different areas. So it can be in terms of the ability to focus, cognitive development, and there's some really interesting and compelling research that shows that even just being able to see a tree from your classroom has an impact on your learning outcomes. So, widely recognised research around exposure to nature at school being beneficial to learning.
Wow. So in urban settings, that's quite challenging. What do schools... I'm kind of jumping right in here, but what do schools in that setting do to try and foster that connection to nature?
So in New Zealand, I think we probably do quite a good job of this. And I actually think most New Zealanders expect our children in education to be getting access to nature, to the outdoors, to outdoor education. And to respond to your first question around, are we doing enough? Are we recognising it enough? The short answer, in my view, to that is no. That's something that at Outward Bound we are deeply concerned about. I'm deeply concerned about declining levels of access to nature in the outdoors for young people, and especially as students move up through their learning journey at school. So we are quite good at it in the early years at school, where it's actually age-appropriate access to nature is going out into the playground and looking at a tree or being out on the grass. But as young people get older, they have different developmental needs. And we actually reduce our engagement with the outdoors and with nature in our curriculum as you go through that learning journey. So I think it's something we need to look at, actually, in New Zealand.
Yeah, I'm just thinking we often asked, put the gumboots in the bag today, they're going on a forest walk or something, but that there does come a point where that stops. Are you saying that even in secondary school, there would be some benefit to saying, right, our class is going off on a 10-minute walk or something now?
Absolutely. But also, actual outdoor education programs, so school camps and things like that, things like Outward Bound or some of the other outdoor education programs that you can do. We work with 16 and up, but actually the type of learning that you're getting when you come on an Outward Bound course is things like social competence, how to work with other people. You are learning about yourself and your values and how you connect with nature, yourself, others, building confidence, building resilience. Those are really important at any age, especially ages of sort of high development for young people and kids.
We're kind of talking about a school's responsibility here, but also as parents, I guess a school is trying to help our children reach their potential as much as they can within the school hours. But we have a responsibility too then, don't we, to try and bring in that outdoor education in a family setting outside of school.
Absolutely. And it is something that we see more and more of in terms of the balancing of risk. And I think that's both an at-home challenge and a at-school challenge is around sort of risk tolerance and thinking about actual risk versus perceived risk, because some element of risk is extremely useful for young people's development. And as a parent, it's a really challenging thing to let your child do something where they might hurt themselves, or you might not be able to control every outcome. But actually that intent or desire to wrap complete safety around our children is harming their development in lots of different ways.
I'm going to ask you more about that, because that's a deep topic to go into. But before we move on to that, I'm aware that I haven't really asked, what is Outward Bound? Tell us more about what that is. I think it's important we know that first.
Yeah, it's and I always take for granted. I just think everybody knows about us.
I think it is so widely known, for sure.
Yeah, but also misunderstood. So what we do is we run outdoor programs for young adults and adults. So 16 to 26 is our core age group. But you can actually come right up until I think our oldest participant was in his 80s.
Wow.
Come to our school in Anakiwa. We run an outdoor school in the Marlborough Sounds. It's beautiful. It's our classroom. And you will do a program with us that might be 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. And you'll be with other people who are your age. So we do them in age groups. And you might head out into the Marlborough Sounds on a sailing cutter, which is a small sailing boat which takes 14 people, which also has oars in case there's no wind. Can't move it by yourself. You have to work in a team. You might go hiking out into the bush, rock climbing, whitewater kayaking, depending on the program and the weather conditions and what your group needs. Your program will be slightly different. And you have 2 beautiful instructors kayak alongside you for that whole journey of a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, who are actually using all of those activities as a medium for learning, right? So we're not there to teach you how to sail a cutter or do rock climbing or go kayaking. We're there to use those activities and to use nature as a medium for learning about yourself. And people have these extremely profound outcomes. So we see amazing shifts in confidence, resilience, sort of the ability to bounce back from a setback, connection to nature and connection to others, service mindset. Lots of young people come back and that we see a big shift in their willingness to contribute to society. And then social competence is a big one. That sort of social skills, we would say, and sort of the areas that we measure really important for setting young people up to work in group environments or to enter the workforce. And we have measured these impacts both immediately after course, at a point months and years later, and then we've done longitudinal research and actually calculated what return we give to society based on the investment we make in these young people. And so for every dollar we spend on an Outward Bound course, we return $9 of social benefit to society in all sorts of areas. So It's pretty incredible.
What kinds of people, are there young people and young adults and older adults coming that are in a place where they are kind of feeling a little lost, or are they in a place where they want to enhance their leadership skills, or is it a range? Like, what kind of person are you saying?
It's a range, and it's actually much more accessible for a broad range of people than people often assume. So it could be that a parent of a teenager is actually thinking, I'd really love to support my 16, 17-year-old to think about their future and broaden their horizons and their aspirations. Or it could be that you've got somebody who's in their 40s who's feeling like they're just in a bit of a rut and they're actually wanting to shake things up and wanting a transition. So we sort of talk about transition points. And so the obvious transition is this transition from youth to adulthood, and that kind of like readiness to step up and be an adult and enter the adult world, into the workforce. That's an obvious transition. But you can buy into that transition point right through your life, and lots of people do, hey? They feel like, I just want something different. And that's why, people might go on a meditation retreat or
Yeah.
do things like that. We actually are amazing for that purpose as well.
Yeah.
We do this one other program. The only course we do with with kids under the age of 16 is a course where it's a 1 week course, and it's for 13 to 15-year-olds, and you come with your parent or caregiver for the duration of that time. And that's amazing too, because you're going into a transition point in terms of the relationship that you have with your parent or your early teen.
There's a lot of transitions going on from 13 to 15.
Yeah, and so you come together in this environment where you go through challenge together, you sort of role reverse leadership roles and create a space for vulnerability. And that's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And at the moment, that's one of our busiest courses, because that is such a challenging age at the moment for young people.
Is it something you can request to go on? Do you get referred? How do you end up on one of these courses?
You can pay to come on a course. So people book and pay to come on a course.
Yeah.
We do have scholarship. We are a charity, so we have scholarships available for people who don't have the means to pay. But as an investment in a young person or a child, if you're a donor sponsoring someone who doesn't have the means, or a parent wanting to invest in your child's future or your young person's future, it's a pretty amazing investment.
Wow.
The other thing I'll say, Mel, is we're completely device free. And I don't know anywhere else in the country where you've got teenagers for 21 days, 3 weeks, not on devices.
Yeah. I think you'd be hard pressed to find that.
Yeah, and schools in New Zealand are finally catching on to how valuable that is for learning, right? Because we're seeing this phone ban in schools coming and in place, but we've been doing that forever. So
what's the feedback you get from these students after that period of time?
So I was in Anakiwa last week for our day 21, which is at the end of the 21-day course, and there's actually this beautiful process we do where at the start, of course, we take their phones off them, we put them into a brown paper bag, write their name on the brown paper bag, and put them away, very analogue, and I was there for day 21 as these students were getting given their brown paper bags back just as they were about to leave. And so I went and joined a group of students who were getting their phones back, and this girl put it in her pocket, and then she was like, "Oh, it just feels disgusting in my pocket." They really, really reject them when they come back. And we've done some research around this. So we did the screen time survey a couple of years ago to look at how do young people feel about having an enforced disconnect. So having someone actually take their phone off them as well as everybody else's, and it was overwhelming. And so not only do they love it, they also afterwards support legislation and regulation to have a minimum age for social media and smartphones. I think it was less than 11% of the young people we surveyed believe that they can self-regulate on their phones. And all of them plan to and then do reduce their screen time after Outward Bound. So they have this recognition of how amazing it feels to be in the present moment with the people you're around. And they want more of that afterwards. So they sort of get that lovely experience.
I think the extent of the follow-up that you do in terms of that data is really important, and you must see the transformation of some of the people that come through. Is that emotional for you sometimes to see the difference that it has made in people's lives?
It is, and it never gets old. And actually, if I'm ever wearing my Outward Bound branded T-shirt in a public space, almost without fail, I will have somebody come up to me and say, my son did Outward Bound and it was transformative for him, or I did it 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And the other day I met with somebody who did it 63 years ago. He was on the first course, and it's still talking about the impact 63 years later. So it's a pretty incredible thing. It's not something that as a parent you would ever regret sending your young person on. But it is a big commitment of time and money to do that. But it is unlike anything else you can do. Yeah.
Let's come back to the discussion of risk. Is there an element of risk?
There is an element of risk. We manage that risk really well and have incredible health and safety processes and practices in place. And so we use risk or a risky environment. But what we know is that perceived risk and real risk have the same outcomes in terms of the feeling of challenge. So if I take the example of our high ropes course up in our kahikatea forest, if you're afraid of heights and you find that challenging, the fact that you're completely rigged up and it's foolproof doesn't change the fact that you're afraid. And so that ability to overcome fear and work through that and see how it affects you and then feel like you can actually do anything afterwards comes from the perception of like, I'm up in this really high tree and I feel afraid, but they're completely safe in that space. So, we've been around for 63 years, and so we have some pretty good processes in place in terms of managing risk. But discomfort is the other thing that is important here is challenge and discomfort. Growth, true growth happens outside of your comfort zone. That's true for you. It's true for me. It's true for a 5-year-old. And so taking young people into an environment where they are uncomfortable and then they work through that discomfort and feel great about it afterwards is really important too.
I remember in high school we had this leadership camp, which was essentially cycling for, I think, 3 or 4 days, kind of 50 Ks a day. And a lot of students were looking forward to that, like, oh, cool, we're going on this little cycling trip. I was petrified. It was such a challenge and so outside of my comfort zone doing that. And I kept thinking, I kept complaining, what's this got to do with leadership? Why am I doing this? But I realized by the end that, it's pushing people out of their comfort zone, pushing people to realize their limits are actually, their ability is way beyond the limits that you think that you have. Yeah, and I guess that's a similar kind of thing, that you're pushing people beyond the limit they think they have.
Absolutely. And we talk about type 2 fun, which type 1 fun is fun at the time, fun afterwards, playing a game, playing on a playground. Type 2 fun is not fun at the time, but it's fun afterwards. And that you're cycling.
Oh, that was type 2 for
type 2 fun. And actually even learning that about sort of delayed gratification and, putting in the work to get the reward later, that is in itself is an amazing learning process for kids and for young people.
Like for you, that I'm sure that would have been like really fun. The cycling.
The cycling,
yeah. The cycling.
That sounds great.
But do you have people that come on the course that outdoor education is not their thing, and are those the people that get the most growth?
Yeah. So it's not for people who want to be in the outdoors or do outdoor education. It's for people who are actually ready for something more from their life, or at that transition point of going into being an adult or a young adult. And what's interesting is that different parts of the course will touch people in different ways, impact people in different ways. So if you and I went on a program together, Mel, you might get a whole lot out of the sailing and I might not, but you actually, that might be the place that you really connect and just have this sort of these great learning moments. And then we might go into the kahikatea forest and you might be like, oh, I've done this before, or it just doesn't connect with you. And that's the thing for me. And so sort of throughout the course, people get different things out of different parts of it, and actually being in the group environment and learning to work with others. That's a really huge part of outdoor education and Outward Bound is the group learning.
When I think about what we're doing in younger years, I've heard of schools that are having to send home notes and newsletters to say, just to let you know, kids are allowed to climb trees at our school. I mean, I don't recall that would have ever have been a thing in my day, in the 80s, that there would have been a note home that kids are climbing trees. What's your thoughts on that and where we are with that kind of risk?
So I think we are at a point where I think there's a bit of a reckoning going on about this. We've got young people who are not okay, right? I think that's what collectively as a country we should be aware of, is that our kids and our teenagers are not really okay. We have really high rates of loneliness, mental health challenges, educational performance is being impacted. There's issues with focus and attention. There's lots and lots of issues. And we also now have this rising body of evidence around the harm of excessive screen time. And young people in New Zealand are spending 42 hours a week on their phones, teenagers. That is more than a full-time job. Right?
That's crazy.
So if you've got young people spending more than a full-time job on their phones, everything else is getting pushed out. All of those things that are really important for their development are being pushed out, like exploration, free play, learning to socialise with other people. So Outward Bound is a great example of where we can transfer, like what do we know that's really great about getting young people outside into areas of challenging environments and getting them out of their comfort zone, taking them into nature. That can be applied right through different age groups and into how we think about our kids as a collective as well. So they're spending too much time online, not getting outside enough, and sort of not having that opportunity to make mistakes and challenge themselves in the real world. And there's some really interesting research that's just come out from Jonathan Haidt about. I mean, he's got a lot of interesting research, but they've just been talking about actually what do you replace the screen time with? So if we were going to take our kids' screens away or try to get them spending less time on their devices, what do you replace it with? And what kids are saying is that they actually want unsupervised time outside, right? They want to be trusted to be outside and to play outside without adults observing them the whole time. And we also know that that's really good for them, and it's got to be age appropriate. But we, I think, as a society, really need to look at some of the inputs and outputs of how we're protecting kids, on balance.
Are you saying we're overprotective?
I think we're overprotective in the real world, in the physical world, and actually the harm is being done in the space where we're not protecting them, which is online. So, yes.
Yeah, interesting. The balance, as you say, there's two different worlds, and maybe we're focusing on the wrong thing in terms of protection. Yeah,
like an unsupervised child is so much more likely to be approached by a predator on playing Roblox in their bedroom than they are in the playground at the park. So there's something in that around how we're supervising, how we're protecting. Yeah.
What can schools learn from this? I mean, how can they handle this, because they're also under increasing pressure in terms of kind of health and safety regulations. So what do you think we could be doing to assist that or facilitate that in schools?
Well, I think schools need to be pushing back around some of the changes. So the removal of some of the outdoor education from the curriculum that's happening at the moment. As young people go through their learning journey, outdoor education is less and less a part of that, and is now looking to be removed almost entirely. When you look at the vision of the New Zealand curriculum, you're wanting connected, confident, actively engaged, lifelong learners. And those outcomes have outdoor education written all over them. So I think it needs to be recognised as a really crucial ingredient for a well-rounded lifelong learner, well-rounded child. And that's not just because it's good for their mental health, and it's also because it's good for their cognitive development and their attention, memory, etc. So there's not, and that's not Malindi's view. Like, there is a lot of research to support that. Yeah. So I think schools need to be thinking, what can they do individually as a school and as a community to ensure that there is a good balance of connection to nature, outdoor education. There are outdoor education programs available, and how do they get the resources to do that? But also there is a broader push that we need to do societally around making sure that this remains a really core part of the education system in New Zealand. Your experience at school and my experience at school here would have had much more access to nature, access to the outdoors than schools do today, and especially with the direction that they're heading, where they're going to go be tomorrow.
And then just finally, some advice to parents. How do you think parents from school age and then also into high school could be trying to help facilitate more outdoor education?
I think looking at providers that can do activities is great, but also just getting out into our beautiful. We're so lucky here. It's not hard.
Yeah.
And doing it with your kids is actually the best thing, is getting out into a local park or into the bush and just trying new things, getting uncomfortable yourself. And there's a little bit of that do the hard thing in there, isn't it? Like if it's raining and you don't want to go outside because you don't want to get wet and muddy.
You think, the cleaning, but actually the kids,
let them run through the puddle, like just, let them get dirty. They're not going to die from getting really mucky, and getting outside with your children and with your kids. And then I have to say, I just think any parent who has the means who is not supporting their children to go on an Outward Bound course is mad. It is. There are other programs. The Spirit of Adventure is great as well. Looking at the school camps and things like that your kids can do, but really giving them those amazing experiences outside is a pretty incredible investment that you can make in a young person's development.
Totally. Well, yeah, you definitely convinced me. Thank you, Malindi.
We're going to get you on an Outward Bound course now.
I'm thinking more about my children. The bike ride. No, actually, I probably could benefit. And actually, last year, it was very public that News Hub shut down, and a lot of us lost our jobs. And the first thing I thought was, it was always been on my bucket list to do one of the Great Walks in New Zealand. And I thought this is actually a perfect time to go and just take some time to think.
Yeah.
And I think in our careers, often as adults, we don't ever take some time to say, actually, I'm just going to take some time to stop and think, what is it that I want? And do I want to be doing this? And, just
absolutely
take the time to change gears.
Yeah.
And I ended up spending a few months at home with my daughter, which I will never, ever regret. But the Great Walk is still on the bucket list, so
we can chat.
We'll do that. Malindi, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Kia ora.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. If that topic was helpful for you and you'd like to hear more, please do like and subscribe. It sends me that feedback. School Shorts is all about supporting busy parents who want their children to thrive. Follow on social at School Shorts NZ for fun ideas, helpful resources, and exclusive giveaways.